Hello everyone and welcome, my name is Thundernumel and I welcome you to the channel. In this video we will be talking about some tech cards that people aren't necessarily using in DDDs. And when I say people aren't using them, I mean not as much as before or not at all nowadays. Since DDD is played the way you like it, I think you might find some interesting tech cards that you might want to use in your deck. I would also like to mention that some slots are dedicated to multiple cards because I wanted to make a top 10 list and I found more than 10 cards that I would like to put on this list. Without further ado, let's get into the list. Starting us off is Pendulum Rising. It's an incredibly interesting card that reads: send one monster you control to the graveyard, special summon from your deck one pendulum monster with the same level as the sent monster's original level, but destroy it during the end phase. You can only activate one Pendulum Rising per turn. Special summoning from the deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is historically one of the most broken effects you can have on the card, and with this particular card you can easily gain access to one of your most powerful cards in the deck, DD Savant Kepler. All you would have to do is normal summon a Necroslime or a Lamia, then use Pendulum Rising and you can special summon Kepler from the deck. And the most interesting part about this is that Kepler's effects aren't negated. Back when the Link era started, I used to play Jester Confit in the deck and then use Pendulum Rising to send it to the graveyard to special summon the Kepler. However, where this card shines the most is with its level 8 interaction. If you are somehow able to summon a level 8 DDD fusion monster, which shouldn't be hard, you can use Pendulum Rising on it to send it to the graveyard and a special summon Ragnarok from the deck. Then you can use the effect of Ragnarok to bring back the level 8 and then proceed with your plays, and in case you have nothing else you can just overlay them for Kali Yuga or something. The reason this card doesn't see much play at all nowadays is that you mostly want Copernicus and Griffin to do your full combo. But if you were to tack some level 4s into the deck, then you might be able to create something really unique, being able to special summon from the deck Griffin, Copernicus, Kepler and even Ragnarok. Keep in mind, however, that because you have to send a monster from the field to the graveyard, it would have to be a non-pendulum monster, because pendulum monsters cannot be sent from the field to the graveyard as cost. Next up on our list are DD Baphomet, DD Dog and DD Night Howl. DD Baphomet is, I feel, the perfect segue into this part of the video because we were just talking about level 4s that you can send from Pendulum Rising. It being level 4 is one of its most important qualities, since you always want to have access to your Small Caesar and Marksman King Tell in order to further your plays. Its level modification ability is incredibly useful because not only you can make any level synchro with it and any DD tuner, but you can also make any monster level 6 and then overlay it with your Genghis in order to make your Big Caesar and play around Nibiru. I guess we could give an honorable mention to Puppet Master here, as it's a level 6 fiend that upon tribute summoning can bring back small Genghis from your graveyard in order to make your Big Caesar before your 5th summon. Next up, let's talk about DD Dog. Its monster effect reads: once per turn, if your opponent special summons a fusion, synchro or exceeds monsters, except during the damage step, you can target one of those monsters. This turn that face up monster cannot attack, also its effects are negated. So if you can, let's say, pendulum summon or special summon this card from your hand and leave it on the board, you have one extra interruption. But granted, it's kinda underwhelming compared to what else your deck has to offer. Worth of note is that it's level 6, so you can always overlay it with another one of your level 6s in order to make Big Caesar. Its scale effect reads: you can target one fusion, synchro or exceeds monster your opponent controls, negate its effect until the end of the turn, then destroy this card. You can only use this effect of DD Dog once per turn. And here lies the main utility of DD Dog. If you're going second and you're up against a floodgating monster, you could search DD Dog, then scale it, then use it to negate the effect, and the effect of Winda comes to mind. Having a searchable out to, let's say, Winda is kinda nice, but if we are playing in a format that doesn't rely so much on those kind of monsters, then DD Dog is more likely than not gonna see play. And this brings us to our final DD monster, DD Night Howl. Its effect reads: when this card is normal summon, you can target one DD monster in your graveyard, special summon it, also you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except fiend type monsters. That monster's attack and defense becomes 0, and if it's destroyed you take 1000 damage. Now, the most important quality of DD Night Howl, apart from its reviving ability, is the fact that it's a tuner. So if you revive a Baphomet, you can make almost any DD synchro monster. If you revive any other level 4, you can use the effect of the level 4 and then you can make Alexander. If you revive Alexander, then you can make the brightest Armageddon with it a Night Howl, and you could also bring any other DD monster to start your reviving chain with your small Big Genghis and so on and so forth. This one didn't see much play because it locked you into fiends back in the day. And now that most people are playing the pure variant, it still doesn't see any play, and I think this is because people want to fit in as many utility cards as they can into the deck, so there is no slot for Night Howl. But the fact that it's a tuner segues us perfectly into the next slot. Oh, Hulky Fibrax, one of the most broken cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! This card used to be the backbone of any DDD Synchro variant. However, as people more shifted to the pure variant, it started to lose popularity. I still believe this card has amazing utility in the deck. First of all, if you make it before you make your link, it can bait out some negates, so even if you don't summon a tuner from your deck, you still have your fiber that can go into formula on your opponent's turn. With the formula synchron, you can synchro summon into secret with it and Genghis, or you can synchro summon Baron de Fleur with it and Big Genghis. And the fact that you draw an extra card from formula synchron could help you in the grind game if it gets to that. Now, I still see people main decking Baron de Fleur, but they don't play Hulky Fibrax or DD Ghost for that matter, and I just find it mind-boggling. Not to mention that if you don't have enough money for Baroness de Fleur, you could always play Satellite Warrior or Big Alexander instead. Sure, they are not as powerful, but they are still interesting options for the deck nonetheless. And let's talk about another engine. If you're looking for an engine to facilitate your needle fiber plays, look no further than E-Tele engine. Emergency Teleport is a quick play spell card that states special summon one level 3 or lower psychic monster from your hand or deck but banish it during the end phase of this turn. You would use it to special summon Psy Reflector, which is a level 1 dark tuner that states: if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one Assault Mode Activate or one card that specifically lists Assault Mode Activate in its text from your deck to your hand, except Psy Reflector. You can reveal one Assault Mode Activate in your hand and target one monster in your graveyard that specifically lists Assault Mode Activate in its text. Special summon it, and if you do, increase its level by 1 to 4, and you can use the effect of Psy Reflector once per turn. So once you special summon your Psy Reflector, you can add an Assault Beast, then you can discard the Assault Beast to add the Assault Mode Activate, then special summon back the Assault Beast and then change its level. Now you have a tuner and non-tuner, so you can make a needle fiber with it. Or alternatively, you can go into a level 7 like Dragster or Zeta, or even your Gust King Alexander to further your combos, because Gust King Alexander is generic. If you don't want that, then you can go into a level 8 like a Chaos Ruler or Borreload Savage Dragon, Chaos Ruler having the utility to set up your graveyard, and Borreload Savage being a negate if you already have a link in the graveyard. Void Ogre Dragon could also be an interesting option if you're planning to end your turn with no cards in your hand, and you could also make a Shenshen, I guess. Now, this engine does require you to run Assault Mode Activate and Assault Beast, which are kind of brick cards. But all in all, if you're looking for an interesting engine, you could give this one a try. And not to mention that Psy Reflector is a level 1, so not only you can summon it off of E-Tele, but off of 1/1. And it's a perfect segue into the next section of the video. The level 1 utility in DDDs, as we were talking about previously, has definitely lost some of its popularity. But a card like Werarvdao is still pretty interesting to use. If you have a level 1 on the field, you can add another one from the deck to your hand, so it can basically be used to search your Kepler, your Lamia or your Necroslime, provided that you already have a level 1 on the field. You taking 2000 damage at the end of the turn isn't a big deal, considering that you can circumvent that by special summoning the Arc and healing for the 2000 instead. Next up is Jack in Hand, which reads: reveal 3 level 1 monsters with different names from your deck. Your opponent adds 1 to their hand. You add 1 to your hand and shuffle the third into your deck. You can only activate 1 Jack in Hand per turn. The basic idea with this is that you can reveal Lamia, Kepler and Necroslime, then your opponent can pick one of those and then you take the other, which would most likely give you an option between Lamia and Necroslime. However, if you're playing the Assault Beast engine, you are given more wiggle room in order to mind game your opponent. Not to mention that you can also play the next card on our list, which is Magician's Soul. It's a level 1 dark spellcaster that reads: you can send up to 2 spell or trap cards from your hand and or field to the graveyard, draw that many cards. If this card is in your hand, you can send one level 6 or higher spellcaster monster from the deck to the graveyard, then activate one of these effects. Special summon this card, or send this card to the graveyard, then you can special summon one Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl from your graveyard. You can only use each effect of Magician Souls once per turn. So basically it's a level 1 that you can special summon for free, you can mulligan your already used Dark Contracts, you can use it with Where Art Thou to search your Kepler Lamia or Necroslime, and you can also reveal it with Jack in hand. If you reveal both Kepler and Magician Souls with Jack in hand, you give your opponent an option to take your Kepler and stop you from searching, thus giving you the draws, or take your Magician Souls, thus giving you the Kepler. You could also use Pendulum Rising on your Magician Souls and then special summon Kepler from the deck. It's really interesting how many intricacies this deck has, but let's move into some monkey options. These do fall under side deck tech options, but I think they are worth talking nonetheless. First, let's talk about Eradicator Epidemic Virus, which is a trap card that reads: tribute one dark monster with 2500 or more attack and declare one type of card, spell or trap. Look at your opponent's hand and all spell/trap cards they control, and all cards they draw until the end of the third turn after this card's activation, and destroy all cards of the declared type. So if you side this in against, let's say, Skystrikers or Altergeist or some other spell/trap heavy deck, this card could be an insta-win. It's a very powerful and interesting card that I wish more people would use, and I think it will most certainly see play in slower formats. Next up is Dark Contract with Errors, which is a continuous trap card that reads: once per turn, if you control DD monster, you can negate all trap card effects on the field, other than this card, for the rest of this turn, even after this card leaves the field. Once per turn during your standby phase, take 1000 damage. This is a searchable out to many of the trap decks that are in the meta. Be mindful, however, that it only negates the effects on the field, so the graveyard effects are still fine. And the final Dark Contract I wanted to talk about is Dark Contract with the Eternal Darkness. It's a continuous trap that reads: while you have 2 DD cards in your pendulum zones, your opponent cannot target monsters on the field with spells/trap effects, tribute them for a tribute summon, nor use them as material for fusion, synchro or exceed summon. Once per turn during your standby phase, take 1000 damage. So it's a floodgate similar to the field spell, however I feel that field spell has pretty much more utility than this one. If you play DDDs for any amount of time, you would realize that it pretty much loses to Dark Ruler no more. However, with this card you can use it as Chainlink 2 against Dark Ruler. Then you could do Chainlink 3 Siegfried, negating the Dark Ruler and thus saving your board. Is it amazing? I don't think so. But does it have its uses? Of course it does. And let's go into the next one, which is a bit more simple than this. Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy is a link to Dark Spellcaster, which reads: this card is always treated as familiar possessed card. You can target one dark monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to a zone this card points to. If this link summon card is destroyed by battle or is destroyed by an opponent's card effect while in its zone or monster zone, you can add one dark monsters with 1500 or less defense from the deck to your hand. You can only use its effect of Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy once per turn. This card is pretty easy to make in DDDs and its utility is basically obvious to almost anyone at this point. You can just link summon it and use it to special summon your opponent's DPE from their graveyard to your field so they don't get their return effect. Simple enough, and moving on to the next one. If you want to play DDDs as risky as it gets, then look no further than Piri Ray Map. It's a normal spell that reads: at the start of your main phase 1, add one monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand but half your life points. After adding it to your hand until the end of the next turn after this card was activated, you cannot activate the added monster effect or the effects of the cards with its name until you normal summon that monster or a card with its name. So you can use this card to search your Copernicus or Kepler. However, you are taking 4000 points of damage provided that it's the first turn of the game. And with your combo inflicting 2000 more damage more often than not to you, you would end up at just 2000 against your opponent's 8000. Now if your board is unbreakable then great, but if they can inflict just 2000 more then you might be done for. However, it's really hard to understate the ability of having 3 extra Copernicus and or Kepler in your deck, so run it at your own risk. And finally, we're getting into the most interesting engine on this list, which is the Small World engine. For those of you who have been living under the rock, Small World is a very confusing normal spell which reads: reveal one monster from your hand and choose one monster from your deck that has exactly one of the same type, attribute, level, attack or defense, and banish the revealed monster from your hand face down. Then add from the deck to your hand one monster that has exactly one of the same type, attribute, level, attack or defense as the monster chosen from your deck, and banish the chosen card face down. You can only activate one small world per turn, so this card basically mulligans any card from your hand for another one from your deck, provided that you have a target in your deck to bridge them. You could use a number of cards from this list as bridges, or you could just use Archfiend Eccentric, which is a level 3 light fiend with 800 attack and 1000 defense. With Archfiend Eccentric in your deck, you could even mulligan an Ash Blossom for any DD monster. So if you intend on playing the Small World engine, maybe consider some of the Ghost Girls. Another interesting option for Small World would be Fantastical Dragon Phantasme, but do keep in mind that it shares the same defense as Orthros. Did you enjoy the list? Do you have any of your secret decks that you would like to share? Let us know down in the comments below. Also consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, we are so close to 500 subs. I'll see you in the next video, bye!